Welcome back, staff. I hope that you've been able to do the homework that was in the previous little video. We're going to get started now, and we're really excited about this piece. Remember, let's cover the vocab again, that we have the three pieces when it comes to this. It's prepare, equip, and inspire. And the prepare is that onboarding piece that we want to bring everybody on consistently because that builds a great foundation. And remember, the reason why we're doing all of this is our leadership development pipeline helps us to be accountable and disciple well those who have chosen to lead and be contributors here at New Life, so that it not only affects their service here at New Life, but their home and their office also, the world and everyone they engage with. So I want to give you a good example here. So I would say my husband has had the benefit, I think he would say benefit, right? of being of being our first fully trained, well, as much as fully trained, because it's a continual process. But according to the leadership pipeline development system, okay, so Zach has done an amazing job in his huddles with my husband and his care for him and training and equipping him because now he's the coach over the leadership development group leaders. But I want to tell you, in my own home, we have seen the effect of what these conversations that Ben and Zach have been having and how it's helped. I see that the tools and the techniques that Zach has given him in leading others, and how I see it changes the way that he even has conversations with our kids. Just that care piece that goes with any correction or any change or any helping them learn something. But I've also seen him, especially because we're working 5 feet apart from each other in this COVID season, I overhear all of his meetings. But Zach's going to talk to you a little bit, but like what a huddle looks like. And I see Ben applying that technique to his office space and the huddles, the meetings he leads at work, and how that's really affected even in how some people respond to him. So I'm so excited to see its effect all the way around. And it's a great thing. And I would tell you that the care, all the things that are going to come with this process really makes a difference. And remember, that's how we become a big church with a small field. And so we can grow, but we can protect the integrity of what really matters to us. And so I'm so excited, even though it's systems and it's nauseating, all that kind of stuff, it's good and it's a good thing. So Zach, help us understand here. What's our clear approach here to have this consistently, to have this whole process, a church-wide process for these 3 steps?
Yeah, absolutely, because it's not about me or it's not about you, it's about all of us. And how do we help leaders? And I think we've all heard this, leaders are made, they're not born. And so this is not about me or not about you. We can all step into these things and have confidence to do these things. You don't have to be a pastor. Like, these are things that we can all step into and learn and grow. So remember, so it's prepare, equip, inspire. Prepare, equip, inspire. That's what volunteers, that's what our team need, potential people need, and teams that we've been part of. And so before we kind of talk about this prepare part, that's onboarding, and we'll actually come back a little deeper into that even next month. We want to talk about the idea of when a new leader or a new coach or a new department lead joins your team, what 5 things they need to know about. The vocabulary word we'll use is competencies, and we'll talk about that more next month. But what do they need to know before they start serving on your team to be successful? And imagine if every potential leader or every potential coach or whoever it might be could sit down with an experienced leader or a coach of other potential leaders with a goal to design to raise up and someone up in your leadership pipeline. The purpose of training is to equip a new leader with the essential competencies that they'll need in their new role. Or the focus is not just simply just to give them information, but rather help them helping them be a disciple maker that produces transformation in their lives, both in the church and outside the church. And so we'll keep diving into that conversation more, both in our training all the next month, but also that onboarding team. We'll start talking through this. These are conversations that we have lots of work still to do in this that we all will buy into. So that's prepare. We've kind of spent a lot of time on that. And so for the rest of the conversation today, we're going to talk about equip and inspire. And so this is, and go back to some of these conversations in the past, span of care, levels of leadership. Hopefully this will start flushing some of the things that, like, what does a coach do? What does a department leader do? This will hopefully be helpful in this conversation. So
So
And
the
equip,
prepare was onboarding, and
onboarding,
now the equip happens once they start walking in that role, right?
they
It's
are
like what's that
serving,
ongoing
yes.
walking. Okay.
How do we help developing leaders at every level for this role? So equip. How are you going to continue to equip someone for ministry beyond their initial competencies to help them start well? Kim, like when you think of a children's ministry worker, what are on top of your head, like what are the 2 or 3 things they need to know when they start?
You know, we want them to be good conflict resolution people. We want them to know how to interact with those around them, how to greet families, you know, how to have that piece there. And then even for us, a real practical thing specific to us is like classroom management kind of stuff. That's a real specific thing for us.
So when you think those are really helpful to get people started. But when they're 3 months, 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years in, like those skills need to be refreshed. There might be other skills to help them dive deeper in doing their job better. And so that's what we're talking about here is really continue to help develop our leaders, our coaches, our department leaders along the way. So the major objective at this stage is to help sharpen leaders beyond their basic skills they need on the outside of their service. The mode of training is through peer-to-peer learning, where each leader collaborates with other leaders and helps them contribute to the overall instruction of the team. Let's go back to our definition of what a leadership pipeline is. It's an experienced leader leading and developing other potential leaders underneath them. For competencies, outcomes, go back to the definition. And so what we want to introduce, a new word. I know we're introducing lots of new words, and we're actually working on a little glossary to help to remind you what all these words are. We think, we will, through our experiences, through research and conversations with other people, the best way to equip leaders, to equip coaches and so forth, is a word we're going to use called a huddle. Now I know at staff, we do a staff huddle here and there, but whatever, you've heard of football huddles, you've heard of huddles in lots of different ways. And so we're going to define a huddle here for us and what a huddle is. And so a huddle is an opportunity that an experienced leader has a chance to sit down. Experienced leader might be a coach, could be the department lead, it could be an organizational leader, someone above them with the levels of leadership, with their span of care. And so if it's a coach, hopefully they're a coach, they have 5 leaders underneath them. So the department lead, it might be 5 to 10 leaders or coaches underneath them. And they have a chance to care or to connect, to celebrate, to coach, to communicate, and to care for those leaders. And so, maybe over coffee, over dessert, over dinner, the huddle is an opportunity to gather those people together for those 5 things of, I'll say them again. So to connect, to celebrate, to coach, to communicate, to care. And say, can a coach have 5 leaders that they are pouring their life into over huddles and one-on-one relationships to help them grow and develop? And so that's kind of the idea. But also the part of it is not just a coach sitting there around coffee with 5 leaders. Let me tell you my experience. They're asking questions, and a leader gets a chance to listen and learn from the other 4 leaders in the room, to learn and grow together. For example, in my world, and with the connection with leaders, we had a coach who was mentoring 4 or 5 small group leaders, who was coaching and championing them. Well, they might ask the question, hey, I hear you guys are all struggling with attendance in your group. People are just really aren't showing up as much as they used to. But not for the coach to be able to say, let me answer that question for you, but for a coach to say, let's grow this together. How do we get people? What might work? How can we pray for each other? How can we support each other? And Joe, who's a leader, he might say something that actually really helps Frank over here. And Frank might say something that actually really helps Sally over here. And a chance for cross learning and experience is a really significant thing that could happen in the huddle. Kim, how do you want to add to that conversation?
For when we go back to that conversation of big church with a small church feel, this is where we protect that. Like I would say my tendency, because one of my strengths is communicator, is I keep wanting to host like big group trainings, which is great. There is a place and a purpose for that. But when it comes to equipping, we want to do that in these small peer-to-peer environments. And let's think about it. If you are with a coach and 5 other leaders and you're being cared for, you're being connected with, not only with that coach, but with your other peers in that team. You're being equipped, and you're doing that in this conversation way. That gives you a place that you belong. Like, this is not a ministry you're going to leave because you don't feel unseen. You know that you're being poured into, you know that you're being cared for. You can see the effects of it in the way of your service here, but also in your life. Like, this builds on that foundation of keeping volunteers here. But even in that environment, you can help someone move into different positions or different places, but you feel that. And so that's where this is going to even just help extend people's service times and how much they want to be a part of it, because they feel cared and loved and seen. And like I said, though, there's places for our large group equipping pieces, but right now we lean so much into that, and that's not really the most benefit, because you can zone out in those. When you're learning peer to peer and you're being equipped that way, there's so much there. So Zach, like,
let me ask you a question real quick. Like, you and I both experienced this. Like, we host team meetings.
Mhm.
What's your average attendance when you do a children's ministry worker meeting?
When we do large group or small group?
When you do, when we do these large group team meetings, we're saying, hey, come, we're doing this. Like, what's your attendance?
We might get 60%.
Yeah. You work hard to probably get 60%.
Yeah, I work hard to get 60%. Yeah.
And I'm the same way. Whenever I host small group leaders or first impression team meetings, or whatever it might be, like, you get half, which is, I'm grateful for those half people who show up. But I think the reason why, okay, so we train those half for that 60% who come. What about the other 50%? Like, we try to follow up, and we send out videos, we send out emails, but you don't get the same content when you're there. But when you're connected to a smaller group and you have a huddle that you're a part of, and that coach is investing into there, and you're able to personalize and provide care and in-depth, like, the chances of those leaders showing up to their huddle is so much more significant.
Yeah.
And when they don't show up, for whatever, life happens. We're not expecting 100% people. It's a whole lot easier for a coach to follow up with one person who misses their huddle than for you and I to follow up with the other 40% who didn't show up to our team meeting to make sure they got cared for, they got celebrated, they got coaching, they got communicated what needs to happen. So there's a pretty drastic shift when we talk about just equipping the command, the way I've done it and the way you've done it and the way we've done it in the past.
Right.
And
this is discipling and caring for the heart of those leaders.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there. And in the end, you may feel like, I don't have time for this. Well, we're going to help you with all of that. But in the end, what you realize is you do have time on the end, because it makes your leaders way stronger. They're more devoted. They're doing the things that they need to do. And we're not dealing with the underperformers, because they have been poured into, and they're in the right place that they should be.
Absolutely. I'll go back to you start good.
What does that look like? Go ahead.
Yeah, but I'll go back to the story with Ben. So I fully admit, like, last year we launched our leadership development groups. Like, I text my leaders occasionally. Hopefully their group is going well and checking in. Like, I think I did one meeting all year long with those leaders. It's just like, they didn't get the amount of care for how much they were pouring out. They needed more care from me.
That's only one small piece of your ministry. That was why. That's only one small piece.
It's a significant piece, but those 7 leaders got very little from me. Mm-hmm. But now to put Ben in a place where he's a coach, and his primary role is this: to host 4 huddles this next year with those leaders and get those people together. He hosted his first one a few weeks ago, and he crushed it. I was so proud of him. But he was the one leading the group, providing training, giving resources, caring for people. And now, as we launch these groups this next year, he's the one hosting the 3 more huddles with those leaders. He's the one who's making one-on-one contacts. He's the one who's caring. And so I know this next year, those leaders are going to experience way more care and way more development than whatever I could maybe give them last year. Mm-hmm. And I really do believe this. I think in our culture today, leaders are made, right? They're not born this way. And so we could give books, we could give podcasts, we could give experiences. How leaders learn the most is what they experience. Mm-hmm. Whatever a leader experiences is what they're going to do to their team, what they're going to do to their member. And so I think that's, so whatever that leader is experiencing is going to translate to how they lead their group, how they lead their team. I think we live in a culture today, most people have never experienced what it means to be prayed for. Like that's an awkward thing for people to do sometimes. It's not natural. It's natural for us because we're in the church. We do this, but for people who live at home or like with families or in the corporate world, like they don't experience those things.
Right.
Where are they going to learn that? Not through a book, not through a podcast, not from us praying a really good prayer on stage, but from their coach who come alongside them and say, hey, can I pray for you? And follow up and care and provide those things. Like that's what a huddle is there for people to really experience leadership, to really be shepherded, to really be discipled, not through all these large group gatherings that are really good and helpful, but through that huddle.
Yeah, I love that. That is awesome. So what's the rhythm of huddles? What is that like?
Yeah, so here's what Kim and I want to propose. I'll share my screen. Kim and I have talked about this. It might be easier for you to see it as we talk about it here. And so here's what we want to say. And this helps even define, again, what a leader is, what a coach does, department leading, we can kind of keep building here. And so for every leader who's there, and again, I know we're not all there, and I'm still working on this, but that every leader would experience a one-on-one connection with their coach 3 times a year. And that they would participate in a coach's, there you go, thanks for highlighting that. So they would participate in a coach's led huddle 4 times a year. So I'll go back to my leadership development groups. I'm a leader in that group, and that's how I'm functioning right now. So Ben is going to host 4 huddles in the leadership development groups where he is he's connecting, he's celebrating, he's coaching, he's communicating and caring. And we'll walk through that a lot more in their detail. But he's doing that for each of those primary leaders of our leadership development groups. Ben is responsible for having 3 one-on-ones with each of those leaders this next year. That's his heart. That's his job. That he's not necessarily leading the group. He's caring and connecting and developing those leaders. We've talked about leadership events, and we'll come back to that. Then there'll be some other training we provide for a coach. The coach, should have 3 one-on-ones with their primary director. Exact same thing: caring, loving, supporting, building relationship. That director. So it's so Ben. If we had other coaches, that Ben would be a part of another coaches huddle that I would lead, where we're developing other coaches along with that, and Ben should be part of that, happening 4 times a year. Again, a leadership event, and it goes up. So as us as organizational leaders, that could be, we should be meeting with our department leads one-on-one weekly, participating in department lead huddles, and we'll walk through some of these things a little bit more and grow in these things. But that's kind of the rhythm. Like every leader should have 3 one-on-ones from their coach. And they should be invited into a huddle 4 times a year.
Hi, so if you think about that, if your coach has been giving you're going to have 3 times a year that you're going to do one-on-one huddles with them. So the coach is taking you to coffee, even it may just be a check-in together, and how are you doing? Where are you? You're having those one-on-one huddles, and then 4 times a year, you're getting together with your peers. Like you're being poured into and equipped and cared for in such a way that you're going to feel that. I see the effect of my husband. We're busy people. I get it. It feels like a lot on paper, but really 4 times a year and 3 times a year is not that much. And you really do walk away from those feelings like, man, how awesome to be prayed for and cared for, and just the effect on your heart and your soul. That's a discipling relationship. And that's the purpose of this. And that's why we set rhythms for it.
It goes back to span of care. Like I can't do that for 15 people. Right. I can't do that for 20 people. I can't do that. So it goes back to our ratio documents and our focus documents to say, this is why it's important. And it goes back ultimately to our heart, the very first conversation we had. It's easy to put people in positions for programming. It really is. It's really easy to say, oh, this person, they know a lot about being a small group leader. And so I'm going to help them, put them in a coaching position so they can teach other people how to be a small group leader. Like that's not what we're trying to hear. Like we are not developing a pipeline for programming. We're developing a leadership pipeline to develop people. Right. And so that changes even the roles and responsibility of what a coach does. It's not just to be the master of how to run the soundboard, or a master of how to lead a small group, or a master of how to be the one leading the classroom on, for children's ministry. That's not the heart of a coach. It's not the heart of a department lead. That's not the heart of even our job. Our job is not to be the doer. How you say it, Kim? Like we're not doers, we're equippers. Is that
Right.
your line?
Right. We're not doers. We're not trying to raise up doers. We are not doers. We're equippers.
Yeah, and so that's again, that kind of helps kind of prime the pump a little different. Help you understand a little difference of what a coach is and how department leads, and that's where we want to get to. And so I know we're hanging out here a little longer, and I just want us to get that. There's a little bit of shift, and we'll talk through. There's some leadership training we have already developed on how to do huddles and developing of coaches. Like we'll talk through those things a little more. Right? We just want to stop and pause, help you understand this is what equipping is for our context going forward.
So we talked about prepare, that's the foundation and onboarding. This is equipping, which is the ongoing care, connect, equip, sharpening the skills and go across. And so the last piece is inspire. So I mentioned earlier, like my strengths and skill set really leads toward those large group rah, rah, rah type things. And this is the place for that. That's not a good place for equipping, but it's a great place to inspire. And what we mean by inspire is the purpose of this is to inspire your leaders to keep going and to keep growing. This is a large group type training or rah, rah, rah to help them feel a part of something bigger. You've worked in your piece, you've been a part of this ministry, you know your role, but now it's a recognition of where that role fits in the larger body picture. And so it's that inspiration of keep going, keep doing what you're doing. This is the effect that you're having on the body, but then also that challenge of continue doing what you're doing and then take it out of these four walls. Go transform the world through the gospel and everyone that you encounter. To take that care and that connection and everything that you're being given and now go apply that to people outside of here as well. So it's just that excitement, it's that woo piece, it's that inspire. That's what we're doing. We're inspiring them to keep going and we're celebrating as well.
Ministry is hard.
Yeah.
Like we all get it. And you look at Jesus' life. I mean, I wondered how many times Jesus wanted to give up. I know he didn't, but like you look at his people, like, oh my goodness, why did I pick these people? It's hard. Ministry is hard. People are difficult. I know I'm difficult sometimes. We can all use words of inspiration and encouragement. And where this happens, if it's in just children's ministry, if it happens in, through just adult ministry, so how do we inspire, or it happens for us as a church as a whole. We can figure out those details. I don't have those answers, but do we have spots in our ministry? Do we have spots on our church calendar where we can gather our people together, where our team members, leaders, coaches, and say, we want to celebrate and inspire you. And we can all get better in doing those moments of celebrating people. And so that's part of this conversation as well. Let me wrap it up. I'll wrap it up. And so here we are. So we have some put it into practice. So you have some reflective questions about this assignment number, this video. So walk through those, kind of challenge, walk through these questions. And then there's some kind of put it into practice questions that might be helpful as you jump into our huddle. And we'll talk about those in our leadership huddle for this month of October. Feel free to sign up for yours. And even though it's not perfect, try some of these things out and start even now. And we'll come back in the next month and really talk through, I'm gonna pull up my little Joe calendar here. So we've kind of talked to structure. We've talked through system. So we've talked about knowing your spot. How do we help Joe flow into leadership? And now we're gonna talk about next is grow. And so what are these, how do we really develop content? How do we develop competencies for people to kind of step into their role and continue to step into their development as leaders? So any last thoughts, Kim, as we wrap up today?
No, I think I'm excited. Kiss your brain. That's what we say in elementary. I knew we threw a lot at you today, but it's good. There's a lot of good stuff and we're presenting this framework and I'm excited to build that team. Don't forget, by October 29th, we need that name of who's on your team that's going to do this. And let's start getting, building these things for New Life. So we're really excited.